Managing Director, Dreams System Innovation Private Limited. And we had earlier also, we invited Sudesh many times, and we are working together for writing projects also. He is also a founder of DreamZ, which was founded in the year 2010. DreamZ System Innovation Private Limited is an embedded system solutions and educational service provider company based in Bhopal. Being the head of DreamZ, he is the source of inspiration for the whole team. Commonly known as Techno Manager, he completed his BTech from National Institute of Technology Bhopal, Managed Bhopal. He is our alumnus. We are we are proud of Sudesh very much. And he did his post-graduation degree in management, PGDM, we commonly call it MBA program, from IIM Indore. He is a well-known speaker and he mesmerized the crowd with his soft-spoken but effective speech. His main strength lies in explaining the complex things in a very, very simple language. And you will witness this with least jargon and by coming to the understanding level of the audience. He is expert in robotics, circuit designing, image processing, MATLAB, and embedded system. Besides, he has keen interest in current affairs, macroeconomics, and marketing. He is a budding entrepreneur from IIM Indore. Presently, he is working on many latest technologies and related products like Internet of Things, IoT, and industrial robotics, industrial automation, home and office automation, smart wireless modules for IoT, smart attendance system, smart solar power generation, managing system, etc. So we are very proud of our alumni Sudesh, and we are very fortunate that he is a man of practical exposure. He believes in his own hands. So whenever our students are having any problem in IoT, I used to refer them to talk to Sudesh. So I am very much sure that you participants of this IoT workshop will be benefited by the practical exposure and practical implementation of many problems by Sudesh More. So welcome Sudesh in this workshop. And now Sudesh, and I will hand over the mic to you, Sudesh.
Sudesh,
not audible. No, not audible.
No, not audible, Sudesh. No, not yet, Sudesh.
I mute.
Not audible. His mic is mute.
His mic is on. His mic is on.
Sudesh, you are not audible.
Sudesh, I think please check this earphone plug. Sometimes it happens that if you don't insert it properly, you don't get the voice. Check it once. Done?
Hello.
Yes, Sudesh, you're audible now.
Yeah. Now you are audible. No, we are losing again and again your voice.
Sudesh, let us try this once that you remove the earphones and then let us try if that goes better.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. I think there's some problem with this software because just now it was working properly.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, it is visible to us.
Thank you so much, Pritam ma'am, Rekha ma'am. It's always an honor to come to Manit and do workshops, and practical exposure is my passion, and I'm so thankful that you're also very much appreciated our work, and we are doing a lot of things in collaboration. I'm really looking forward to do a lot of projects together. We had a very brief interaction. We just interacted few months before only, but in such a short time, we have developed a very strong bond and coordination and cooperation. So I hope that we'll be able to do these things in future also. So thank you so
Definitely,
much.
definitely, Sudesh.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just proceed with my presentation. Welcome to all of you. It's pleasure for me to present this uh, session to all of you. So we've been listening to very good speakers. Because I'm in lockdown at my home, so I requested to come and that I should so that I can also attend the other lectures. So we had really great speakers, everyone introducing a very different topic of IoT. So we can see that IoT is a very vast domain. It has grown to very different areas. And although a lot of areas has been covered, I'll be more focusing on the hands-on part of it, the implementation part of it, because that's what I love also, that doing everything in practical and bringing things to reality. So based on my experience of attending this session from last 2 3 days, we have seen that there is a lot of disturbance. So I think many of the participants are new to this online lecture series. So I just would like to educate them and just inform them that there are a few things that need to that you definitely look to whenever you are attending any online workshop, so that there is no disturbance. So you can see there are these three icons on your screen. There one is the mic icon, other is video icon, and third is a chat box icon. So I request all of you to please mute your mic, and if it's not required, you can also mute your video, because it will boost your speed. Because if internet connection is not good at your end, it might be possible that you will not be able to hear me or see the slides. And I have seen that most of the participants are not seeing the chat box. It is very important that you see the chat box, because if there are 100 plus participants, it is very difficult to manage the inquiry and question answer session. So the best way is to type in the chat box, and whenever I'll get time, I'll try to address your questions and concerns. Just once again, highlighting how we should move in this session. Keep your mic muted unless it's not required. Video can be switched off. It will help to boost your speed. It is better to attend such sessions from a desktop rather than a mobile phone, because on a mobile phone there is a touch screen and there is a lot of touches happening. So many times you unmute your mics and all. If you have any question, please type in your chat box. I have opened the chat box here, and I can see what you have asked for, and I'll try to address your question as in when required. If there is an issue, like if my voice is not audible, if my video is not clear, if this presentation is not clear, please type in the checkbox. I'll try to sort out that problem. And if that problem is removed, please also inform me, because it's a very, also for a speaker, it's odd to interact with a silent audience, because we are not able to understand what's happening at your end. So just inform us through chat box that the problem has been resolved. Also, I've seen that I feel that many of the participants are not attending the lecture. They have simply switched on their WebEx and all. So, and also I'm planning to have a hands-on session from your side using some simulation tools, online simulation tools that you can do at your home. For that simulation tool, there is a tool called Tinkercad, and I have created a classroom in the Tinkercad. So if you create any assignments on that Tinkercad, I'll be able to check here if you join my classroom. So for that classroom, what you need to do is you need to provide me your nickname so that I can create those nicknames. Although 100 participants, it might be very difficult, but I'll try my level best. So I just request all of you to just open your chat box as I showed below, and please type your name first name and nickname. Please listen to me carefully. It is very important that you listen to me carefully. Please type your name, follow the format, name, colon, your name, comma, nickname. And please use in the nickname and no capital letters so that there is no confusion at my end. So again, I'm repeating. Let's have type your name followed comma and your nickname. I'll just take a 2 minutes pause for so that all the members can do this. After that, we'll proceed with our presentation. So request your nickname should also be same as your name. Don't have a nickname which is odd and difficult to recognize. Okay, so 2 minutes has passed, and other members who have not entered their name and nicknames can enter in between. So let's proceed with our presentation. I'll be slow to change my slides because I've seen that after I change my slide, there is in many times the slide it is slow at your end. So I'll change my slide slowly, and all the contents will be visible on the slide. So just an overview of what I'm going to do from the next 1.5 hours or so. So this particular session I'm planning to divide into 3 sections. Each subsection will be divided into 20 to 25 minutes. And I'll keep, after every 20 to 25 minutes, I'll keep 5 to 10 minutes for questions because I understand there might be many questions on your sides. Please ask your questions in your chat box. I will recommend if you can hold your question. we'll be starting with layer 2 because layer 2 is what is essential for implementing the hardware part, and we'll also try to cover the implementation of Tinkercad simulation to implementation of our layer 2 using Tinkercad simulation platform. So, what is internet? Before I start about IoT, I would like to talk a little bit about internet because it's all started with internet evolution. So as we know that internet is a global system of interconnected computer networks that uses internet protocol, TCP/IP is also known as, to connect the networks and devices. So this definition is available on internet. I would not go deep into that. The main point I wish to discuss is how the process of how internet was created. So internet was primarily developed to exchange just emails. Because imagine those days when you have to write to somebody and it takes around 7 days, and if you have to write to somebody overseas, it may take months to reach your letter and coming back. So even having a facility that instantly, say in few seconds or few minutes, your message is being delivered and you're getting replies, it's a wow moment for those people who are using internet in the starting phase. So it was the first driving reason why internet was developed. But now you see everything is connected with internet. It has completely revolutionized our life, and still it has revolutionized. But we are connected with internet by only two medium. One is mobile phone, and other is laptop and computer. We are not connected with any other medium. Only these two mediums we are connected with internet, and our lives have changed so much with that. So what we can say is our internet basically works for human to human. In most cases, there are also other cases, but in most cases, internet works mostly about human to human connection. Like we are connected through internet, I am able to deliver this lecture to all of you. Now, what is IoT? So IoT wanted to go just one step ahead of this. What IoT says that right now through internet, humans are connected. Why not connect the machines? Why not connect the devices? Just look around us. Look around us, and there are so many devices which are running around us. It may be AC, the fan, cooler, then devices like bulbs, lights, and so many things are there. Why not connect them with the internet also? So what internet says, it's human to human connection. There is slight typo in my slide. It's human to machine connection and then machine to machine connection. I'll just correct it. Okay, I'll just leave this. So what IoT tries to implement is three types of communication. One is human to human connection, human to machine connection, and then machine to machine connection. Referring to the definition of IoT, Internet of Things is a network of physical devices. It's very important. Internet has to be a physical device. It cannot be a software. It cannot be just a website. It has to be physical devices. It's a network of physical devices. It may be vehicles, it may be home appliances, or any other thing which must have these following things. It must have electronics. It must have a software. It must have sensors and actuators. And it should have a connectivity with internet so that these objects can exchange data. What IoT allows objects to be sensed, controlled remotely across existing infrastructure. So IoT says we don't need a new infrastructure. Across existing infrastructure, we should be able to connect our IoT. When we talk about internet, when it was started, it said that we need a new infrastructure. A complete new infrastructure was built for internet. But IoT says no new infrastructure is required. Existing infrastructure can work, helping more direct integration of physical world into computer-based system. So now they want that physical world should get connected with the computer system. More and more things get connected with the system. More efficiency, accuracy, economic benefit, and reduce human intervention. So IoT aims that human intervention is reduced as much as possible. Now, IoT word is formed by two terms, internet and things. So we all know what internet means. It's just connections between two remote devices, two remote humans, and we can exchange data through a standard protocol. But when we talk about things, what is thing is all about? So legal scholars suggest that things as an inextricable mixture of hardware, software, data, and services. Means it's a thing must have these things like hardware. It should be a embedded or electronic hardware. It should have a software into it. It should collect some data, and there should be some service or connectivity to which it should be able to communicate internet and send data. So all these things should be present in a things. Such devices are called things. So things can be heart monitoring implants, biochip transponders on farm animals, cameras streaming live, automobiles, DNA, and so many things. So you can think anything around you can become a IoT thing. Now we have a very interesting history of IoT. IoT, the first known history of IoT is a Coca-Cola machine which in 1980s, which was made to check remotely whether that Coca-Cola machine has enough cans of Coca-Cola, if those cans are cold or not, and so on. But the term IoT was coined by Kevin Ashton of Procter and Gamble. Later, he shifted to MIT Auto ID Center. He actually gave this term Internet of Things. So, how this Internet of Things idea came to mind? Kevin Ashton believed that RFID technology. So, all of us have heard of RFID technologies. He believed that all things around the world can be tagged using RFID technology. So those who have not seen RFID, just a brief idea. Like we might have visited many malls like Pantaloon malls and such malls, and we've seen that there are some while we enter there is some standing structures through which we have to walk through. So these structures are basically RFID reader, and when we do shopping, when we go to the counter, they remove a tag or something which is attached to your clothes and materials. That tag is basically RFID tag. So if you walk through that gate, and if in your bag that tag is present, then it will give an alarm. So what Kevin Ashton believes, this RFID tagging can be extended to all of the things, and we can connect everything to internet using this tagging concept. Later on, there are many new tagging concepts were developed like retail marking, barcodes, QR codes, and so many things. Even like we know that as humans, we are being tagged using Aadhaar card. So Aadhaar card is a way of tagging humans because by tagging we are unique. No person can have two Aadhaar cards with the same fingerprints. So initially, IoT was developed only for inventory management. So like companies like Procter and Gamble and Hindustan Lever, which manufacture a lot of products, they find it very difficult to manage their inventory. So IoT was first introduced for inventory management. But later on, like Internet of Things, everybody understand that it will grow like anything. So these are some of the figures, and if you visit all the websites and all these figures keep on changing. So some of the figures which I could find is that by 2013 there were 9.1 billion of IoT devices. 1 billion is equal to 1 Arab, means 100 crores. So this is 910 crores of IoT device by 2013, and it is expected by 2020, like by this year, it should reach 30 billion, means 3,000 crores of IoT device will be operational around the world. And the revenue growth from IoT market is expected in trillions of dollars and across the world, and it is constantly growing. So these were just brief, which I felt that which was not covered in various lectures, and I will focus mainly on my part here, which talks about some of the issues which I personally felt has to be dealt with IoT. So in IoT, if we compare IoT with internet, I personally call internet as a technology. When we talk about technology, there is a standard protocol, like IoT should be IPv address based, it should be IPv4, IPv6. The data that has to be sent from one end to other has to be in a form of IP packet. This packet should have an IP header and so on and so forth. There is a very standard protocol. This protocol says how data should be sent from one place to other, but doesn't talk about its application. Application is independent to the user of this IP packet. So I call internet a technology. However, IoT is very different. IoT doesn't say that you should use this or you should use that. You should use Arduino or Raspberry Pi, or you should use embedded system, or you should do wireless network, or you should use Wi-Fi. It says you are independent to use anything as long as the device is connected with internet. Internet simply says any device which is connected with internet is an IoT device. Beyond that, there is no standardization and there is no world accepted norms that how an IoT product or project should be developed. I found that this naturally creates these three problems, although there are many other problems related with IoTs. I won't call it problem, but issues. Although I'll cover these problems in brief and I'll try to address the solution for that. So modularity is a concept where we try to modulize a thing. So if we say, if we have a IoT product, it is difficult to identify different modules to it. It's a complete product in itself. Portability, if one company has implemented one product, other company cannot use or integrate that product into their application. So portability is a big issue. Standardization, as I said, there is no standardization. You can use any devices as you wish, and any type of devices can be used, any type of hardware can be used, any type of protocols can be used, except internet is the only fixed part. Everything else can be changed. So standardization is not there. So I felt that we need some kind of a standardization, and I actually implement this standardization protocol in my products, a lot of products and projects. So this layered architecture of IoT, you will not find on internet. I have searched a lot of sources. There is no layered architecture proposed for IoT. There are layered architecture for communication, like you saw network layer, MAC layer, and TCP/IP layer, and so on. That is a communication protocol that's not specific to IoT, that's specific to any communication medium. But I'm talking about implementation of IoT. So if we talk about IoT hardware implementation, there are 5 layers that I propose. The first layer is basically the sensors and actuator layer. Sensor is the word used for all those hardwares which can sense things like temperature, pressure, and so many things. Actuator is the word used for all devices that do some actions like LED, lamps, motors, machines, etc. So this is the layer, and this is the most bottom layer, the first layer of this IoT architecture that I am proposing. The advantage of this architecture is you can fit this architecture in almost all kind of projects. And if you follow this architecture properly, the modularity, portability, and standardization features can be included in IoT implementation. Second layer is about processing layer. So this layer basically collects that data from the sensor and actuators, and if some processing is required, it puts processing and then pass on this data to the third layer, which I call as connectivity layer. So this connectivity layer connects these hardwares to many devices and to internet. And then finally, when this data is sent to the internet, so there comes our layer 4, which forms our server layer, cloud layer, websites and all, everything can be included in this layer. Here, basically, we find all these graphic graphs and websites and plots and all. And the last layer is data analytics layer, which is many cases is optional, depends whether you want to use or not. So in this layer, we try the collected data is being analyzed using deep learning, analytics, and a lot of features. Artificial intelligence, machine learning can be implemented. This 5-layer architecture can help us to implement any hardware project, any IoT project very efficiently and with a lot of modularity. So just briefly discuss all these layers. So the first layer is basically sensors and actuators. This is the only layer which interacts directly with the physical world. Or the IoT hardware implementation, IoT product implementation layers have different layers as we discussed. This is the only layer which actually interact with the physical world. So sensors and actuators are used to interact with the physical world, to collect data from them, or to do some action. So there are different kinds of sensors. Very good times. A good list of sensors were covered by a lot of speakers in this session, in the previous sessions. So sensors are the physical devices which capture some physical quantity of real world. The physical quantity could be temperature, pressure, light, sound, motion, etc. Actuators, as I already said, is a term used for devices which do some action. What are the example? LED. If there are LEDs, we want to switch it on and off. The LED can be called as an actuator. A lamp, we want to control the lamp. We want to control it by simply switching it on and off. We want to control it by controlling its intensity. Fan speed control. Fan is the actuator where we want to control the speed of the fan. Motor control. We want to control the speed of the motor and many other things. AC and etc. Lot such things are there which can be called as actuators. Yeah. So the second layer, which is a pretty important layer from many point of view, is the processing hardware. Now these sensors and actuators cannot be directly connected with the internet. Number one. Second, these sensors and actuators may provide a lot of data. May be provided by this layer 1, which may or may not be required to send to the higher layers or internet. So this processing hardware layer basically interacts with layer 1. It collects the data from the layer 1 or do some action, and then only it sends that data to the higher layer, which is the connectivity. So this layer collects information from sensors of layer 1 or controls the actuators of layer 1. This layer may do some processing of data collected. So whatever data is collected, it may process that data, or it may not. For example, if we devise IoT hardware, which is used only in case of emergency situation, like fire is there, over temperature is there, or some things have smoke is there. So such sensors may continuously give the data whether there is fire or not. So our hardware may not require this information continuously sending to the internet. The hardware should send information only if there is an emergency situation, like there is a fire. So this is this processing hardware which makes sure that we process that data. If there is an emergency situation, then only it will send that information to the higher layer, or it will not send. So this is called some kind of processing. After processing this data, if it is required, this layer transfers that data to the higher level for internet connectivity, or takes some actions from higher level to do some tasks. In most cases, this layer are made up of low power embedded system. Example, microcontroller based PCBs, Arduino, and all. So these are a lot of examples of processing hardware. So I can see there is some of the comments in the some platform had said like vacuum cleaner or servo motor. Yes, anything which do some actions, whether it's a vacuum cleaner is pretty advanced. So it will be difficult to implement, but yes, vacuum cleaner can also be called as an actuator. A servo motor, it is a motor which is doing some action, so definitely it can be called as an actuator. So in processing hardware, there are some of the hardwares available like microcontroller-based PCBs, Arduino, Raspberry Pi. These all come under processing hardware. So processing hardware can be of different types. We'll be seeing Arduino in bit detail because this is very easy to use, and there are a lot of easily available platforms to work on such on Arduino Uno. Yeah. So next is connectivity layer. In fact, sensor actuator layer and processing layer was pretty much there for a lot of time. Even before IoT came into market, these hardwares were always available because there were many applications based on this only layer 1 and layer 2. Like for example, there are automated lighting system in many industries where if there is a person in a room, that light glows. So if that light glows, that is also an example of sensor-based action. But that is not an IoT product because it is not connected with the internet. So this connectivity layer is very crucial to make any automation product or any kind of device to make it an IoT device. So this connectivity layer can be of two types. First is connectivity layer, which can have a direct connectivity option, and second, which have an indirect connectivity option, like wireless networks like WSN. WSN was covered by one of the speaker quite good in quite good manner. It's in itself is a very vast topic. I'll try to cover this topic in my next sessions. So WNS is wireless sensory networks, as it's named short form of the name. So what happens in real world scenario? There can be two types of IoT hardware. One type of IoT hardware which wants direct connectivity to the internet, and others are providing direct. Others are there where direct connectivity is not provided. So let's see an example here. Like here, you can see that there is a device which is being named edge router here. This device is having different kind of sensors, and it is the only device that we are using, and there is no other device in that particular area, and this device is directly connected to the internet. So such kind of connection, I'm calling it as a direct connectivity, where the device which is having the sensors is directly connected to internet to any direct internet connectivity option. However, in practice, this is less followed. Direct connectivity options are less. In practice, indirect connectivity options are more seen, because the problem with IoT hardware is they are in large numbers. So for example, if we want to implement, like I was just seeing the comments of one of the participants who was working in building automation. So in building automation, as we are seeing that there are so many devices. So if every device is provided internet connectivity, it will increase the cost of device. Also, it doesn't make sense to provide connectivity, internet connectivity to all the device. So what we do here is we have a node. Each node has a sensor or actuator attached to it. These nodes may form a wireless sensory network among ourselves, which can be of different type. They can be and so many are available. And this network is connected to an edge router. Edge router is a device which actually has an internet connectivity. So all these devices are connected to this edge router through some wireless network, and this edge router is then connected with the internet using cloud and things like that. So this type of connectivity I call this indirect connectivity, and it is very popular. And if we wish to implement such type of internet or such type of projects, we need to study WSN, wireless sensory network, in quite detail, because the cost is a very important parameter here. If you are implementing thousands of devices or maybe 10,000 or even more than that, then cost parameter will come into picture, and we'll need to develop lowest cost product possible. So all these internet features and all those will not be provided. Only wireless network is provided, which is can then be connected with internet. These sensor networks also, because there are large number of IoT devices, wired network is almost non-existent in IoT application, because wired networks may sound, but they are more costlier than wireless networks. Implementing large cables is much costlier than implementing simple low-cost wireless devices. That's why a very dedicated wireless networks, protocols, and a lot of work is already done in this area. So this finishes our layer 3. Layer 4 and layer 5, basically I'm combining this together because I'll prefer to cover this in little more in other sessions, and also some of the speakers covered this part. So layer 4 basically forms the servers, clouds, and website. This layer is also important layer because it is the layer which provides a user interface. How our IoT devices are working, we get to know only through these websites, through apps, and all these things. So this layer constitutes all those things. So as it is written, it is the only layer which interacts with the user. Ultimately, user is the one for which we are developing these projects. User may be your customer, user may be you yourself, user may be a broad many of people like common people. So like if we are going for smart metering is still not available to common people. Like we use electricity every day, and at the end of the day, at the end of the moment we get the bill. And if that bill is huge or less, we are not able to identify because of which device this we are getting so high bills. At homes, we have moms and sisters and all those females which who very well take care of all these electric wastage of electricity. But in office environment, it's very difficult to control who is misusing the electricity boards. So in such cases, if we have a IoT implementation, then the user, say the boss of that office, will be able to monitor on his interface, website interface, that which office area is consuming a lot of power, where is the wastage of electricity, or maybe guard is using AC at night because he has all the keys. So all this information will be available on the website. So layer 4 it is very important in such cases. 5 has become important in these times because of a lot of AI-based application that is being seen. Now, as it is happening that more and more, less and less are sitting on a lot of technologies. AI is enabling IoT even more lesser human intervention. It will act on its own. So like Industry 4.0 is a concept that is being heavily promoted by the government of India. So AI will play a very critical role here. So how this AI works here, I'll just give a brief idea. So for example, we have industry where we have machineries which are working 24/7, and failure machinery can lead to production disruption for many days to stop. But in practice, all machines do not fail all of a sudden. They always give some signs and signals that I'm going to fail. So if we install a lot of sensors on these machines, collect that data on our website or servers and clouds, apply artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms on that data, we can predict that this machine is going to fail in these times. This machine has problem with this part and all. So having this prior information to the engineers of that plant, they can do they can do preventive maintenance. They can shut down these machines at a planned time and repair them. So a lot of costs can be saved using this layer 5. So after going through this layered architecture, I will just take a small case study to understand how this IoT project can be divided into different IoT layers. So I really like this idea of solar tree. So I felt that I should include this as a case study. You can see a solar tree, a simple solar tree that we are seeing in this image itself. It has these following components. The first component is the PV cell, which basically converts sunlight into electricity. To have a maximum to make this PV cell work at maximum efficiency, we use MPPT chargers. I won't go very detail into that. These MPPT charger will charge the batteries, and these batteries will power the street light in the night. So we can see these are all different components of a solar tree. So I have a simple question to all of you. You can type in your chat boxes. Out of these components, which all component you think belong to which all layer? So we'll just go step by step. So I'll just first ask the PV cell. So I want to know from our participants that PV cell belong to which layer of IoT we discussed. Does it belong to layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, or layer 5? I'll just please type in your chat box. No one is able to attempt. I think sometimes there is some delay in you type and I get reply. So I'll just wait for a while. So none of you can tell me a PV cell belong to which layer?
Probably layer 1, sir.
Please. Is this once again?
Layer 1.
Next slide again. I just want the layer side slide once again. So these are all the layers that I was talking about. Layers, actual layers, sensors actuator is the first layer. Processing hardware is the layer 2. Activity is the layer 3. Server and clouds are layer 4. Data analytics and AI is the layer 5. I hope everyone can see this. Please type in your chat box because it may not be possible for all of you to speak at once. Okay, so I think no one is able to identify which layer it belongs to. So the answer to this is basically it belongs to none of the layers. So this is not at all an IoT project. So this is very important for us to identify which is an IoT project and which is not. So I'll just repeat once again. So all these components are component of a solar tree, but they are not a component of any of the layer of IoT. This is not an IoT product or IoT project. We can convert this product or project into IoT product, but as of now, it's not an IoT. So let's convert it into IoT product. So here's a slide in which we have added a few things to this IoT project, and then thereby we are now making it as an IoT. So IoT basically talks about sensing and controlling. What are the things that we can sense here? PV cell is a device which converts light into electricity. So we might be interested to know the light sensors, lighting available in that area. So we may use light sensors. Then there are voltage current sensor to measure the voltage of the battery. We may want to switch on and off the street light remotely. So these sensors may be installed on this solar tree. Then we'll have a processing unit because, as I said, these sensors cannot be directly connected with internet. So we need a processing unit. Here, an example could be Arduino Uno, which is connected with sensors and relay. Now, this Arduino Uno should provide this information to internet. And it should have a wireless connectivity. So XB as the speaker, that XB can be used as a wireless medium of as a wireless module. So we are using a wireless module, and then we are connecting this wireless module to a computer or phone to some hardware, and then we can monitor all those information on our computer or mobile phone, and we can also control these devices from the mobile phone. So if we talk about different layers, we have less time, and it looks like we are not able to communicate well to this chat box. I'll directly come down to the answers. So as we can see, the light sensors, voltage and current sensor relay control basically belongs to layer 1, which is the sensor and actuator layer. Then the layer 2 is basically the processing unit, where we are using Arduino as a layer 2 or processing unit. Then we have layer 3. So XB basically forms a layer 3, the connectivity layer. And then we have, finally, we have our computer or mobile phone to form a layer 4. But is it a layer 4 actually? We have to ask this question, because there is something missing, something very important missing. In fact, although we could find a lot of layers in this implementation, it's still not an IoT project. I repeat, this still not an IoT project. Why is not an IoT project? Because the very important thing missing here is there is no internet connection. When we say that this XB is connected wirelessly and this XB is connected directly with computer, and we are not having any internet connectivity here, this is still not an IoT project. It is important that we should include an IoT project. Although this project itself can be very helpful for a campus like IIT Indore or Manit Bhopal, but it may not be useful for remote locations like in villages. So this is still not an IoT project by strict definition, but this is a good project for application. So how to add IoT part to it? So we can add IoT when we use Wi-Fi enabled with internet connection. Wi-Fi can connect without internet also. So I am considering here that Wi-Fi has internet. So if we connect this Wi-Fi to internet, and internet, at the internet we have servers and clouds and all those things, then we can call it as a internet connectivity is provided. Then we can call that computer and mobile phone are basically layer 4, where the website and servers is present, and through that we are able to monitor and control an IoT device. So this is also an example of a direct connectivity where the hardware processing unit is directly connected to internet using a Wi-Fi module. But in practice, it may be possible that there are many other IoT implementation. There might be many solar tree in an area providing internet connectivity to all the solar tree might be costly. So we can form a wireless sensory network using multiple layers or multiple ZigBees. One of the ZigBees can be considered as an edge router, which is connected to Wi-Fi, say for example, for internet connectivity. And through that Wi-Fi connectivity, they can be connected to the internet. And there we can have mobile phones and computer as our layer 4. This is a case study. I hope through this case study you understand how this layer architecture works, and whatever implementation you are going to do using IoT, you can now very easily identify different layers, and it will help you implement your product and project in an easy manner. So now I have finished my first session of first subsession where I have discussed about layered architecture. Before beginning my second subsession, I would like to have some questions from the participants. It would be better if you type in the chat box. Your voice is not audible.
Please mute your mic. I think somebody's mic is on.
Okay, please mute your mic. So anybody is having questions, they can chat. They can type in chat box. Do you have any questions till now? Okay, no questions.
No, there is one, Suresh. There is one
please.
question in the chat box.
Chat box. Okay. Oh,
Yeah. Should I read that?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. This chat box was not updated, so I thought nothing is visible. Okay. I'll just scroll it down.
There are 2 questions in the chat box.
Yeah. Thank you for informing, ma'am. Okay, so I think I missed a lot of things. I'll just scroll down first. It was important to clear the doubts. Okay, so I'll take these questions one by one. First question is, can an existing non-IoT project be converted to an IoT project? Yes, it can very easily be converted into IoT project, and that is what IoT talks about. So if we have to change all our old infrastructure, it will be very costly. So the solar very ideal example where we can see that a solar tree which was not an IoT project, we simply installed sensors and actuators. So sensor here, as I said, is a light sensor, and say current sensor and voltage sensor, which can be installed after the original product is prepared, and we can have relays installed which can switch on and off, and so using that complete infrastructure we can convert a non-IoT project into IoT project very easily. Okay, so next question that I'm seeing here is, day by day we are adding advanced wireless technologies and devices to our real life. Will there be any negative impact over our health if we become more dependent on such devices? Okay, so this topic is being there from very long time. We have to understand how this wireless network affects us. So for a wireless network, there are two parameters involved. One is frequency, and other is intensity. So frequency and intensity both are critical from our health point of view. In most cases, if we are using such kind of wireless devices like XB and all these devices, they are so low power that it can hardly affect our health. However, if we have a say mobile tower at our home, or there's a mobile tower in a vicinity and a very close area of your home or your place, it may affect your health. It may be responsible.
Yeah, I think Sudesh has lost. Yeah. Yeah. You're back.
Yeah, am I back now? Yeah, actually,
Yes,
I got
yes,
a
you are.
call on my phone. So when there is a call, internet is disrupted. Okay, so I'll
Yeah,
continue.
back.
So if there is a, if we talk about mobile, yeah, if we talk about mobile tower, then mobile tower has very strong intensity. Intensity means it has a lot of power in it. So if people around them may have some problems, but that may fault is there because a lot of health studies are suggesting it may or may not affect. There are also a lot of shielding possible, but in general, the low power devices that we are talking about will not affect our health that much. Okay, so there are the cost and technical implications are there. So cost and see technical implications changes day by day. As far as cost is concerned, again we are seeing that we cannot even today we cannot say what will the cost of hardware 1 year down the line. There are so many research going on across the world that that cost is reducing. So in general, IoT is becoming very, very cost effective and it's going to be used in future because the benefits are immense. Okay, so next question is every layer is important or not? I'll say except layer 5, every layer is important and compulsory. If you miss any of the layer, the product cannot be called as an IoT product. So it is important that at least 4 layers, first layer 1 and layer 2 should be there. Data, yes, next question is data is stored in processing hardware. Data can be stored in the processing hardware, it cannot be stored. It depends on the type of hardware you have developed. But in general, since user is interested in the data and user interact with IoT through website, so website should have data. That's why in general the data is sent to the website and is not stored in the hardware. Because if we store in the hardware, then internet is not required. So that device is not basically a IoT hardware. Okay, IoT hardware should have a internet connectivity, and usually the data is sent to the server. For backup, we can save in the hardware memory also. Okay, so depends if actuator is installed or not. It depends because if there is normal switch on off, there may not be an actuator. Okay. So next question is in processing unit, which programming language is used? It is Python or MATLAB. Unfortunately, there are so many languages because IoT do not standardize anything. So you may have to use embedded C language. You may have to use Python. MATLAB so far is not so popular for the hardware part processing unit because it's a high level language and it required very heavy processor. So Python, Linux, all this environment is required. So there are so many languages there. However, if you use a particular platform, then you may use a particular kind of language. Okay. So to develop a smart home, is it needed to have an individual Wi-Fi modules at every gadget? It is not essential to have a Wi-Fi module because there are other connectivity options available like SIM card based connectivity. We have a product called RFID based attendance system where we use in a school environment. So school in that school, students come every day. They have a RFID card. They swipe that card on that machine, and that attendance is marked on this website. So for that, obviously, we cannot assure that there will be a Wi-Fi network in that area. So what we use, we have put a SIM card, and in SIM card there is SIM 800 modules which can directly connect to internet through GPRS or 3G or 4G. And in that way, we can use those modules. So Wi-Fi is not compulsory. Other than Python, C, hardware is not language dependent. It can be even in .NET and Java and things like that. However, the popular hardwares are mostly in C and Python. Like Arduino Uno has a C-like programming. It's not exactly C. It's not exactly C++. It's a C-like programming. And Raspberry Pi is mostly on Python. So these are two popular languages, but there can be many other languages depending on the hardware that you. What is the scope for research in IoT in terms of algorithm? Because most of the things are hardware in IoT, and analysis comes under the machine domain. In fact, it's a biggest misconception that a lot of work is happening in IoT only on hardware level. I am from hardware domain, that's why I am talking a lot about hardware. But there is a lot of work happening in AI, website, sensory networks, and so many things happening in which a lot of them. And most importantly, even if you are say electrical domain, a lot of things may not be from electrical domain, but it has an application in electrical domain. So you may have to learn all those things. Okay, what is the scope of change? Is this covered? For a modest application, how sensors and actuator can be linked at maximum. Okay, so there are many very low cost home automation devices available on Amazon. You can check that, which can very easily connect with your Bluetooth device of your mobile phone, and you can switch on and off that device. They are as low as 500 to 1000 price. So these are the lowest price I can say that is available for. How many sensors and actuators can be linked without loading the network? Again, network loading depends on your internet speed and server capacity. Sensors and actuators, number of sensors and actuators depends on your hardware use. So there is no limit to sensors and actuators, and there is no limit to loading of network. It depends what kind of hardware and what kind of server capacity you are using. Okay, so there are so many questions. What is the difference between industrial sensors and normal sensors like MQ135 gas sensor is normal? There is a very common difference, very small difference between this, between an industrial sensor and normal sensor. Industrial sensor is basically designed for a very rough environment. It can work in high humidity. There might be some water droplets. There might be a lot of dust particles, a lot of temperature, very high temperature is there. While normal sensors are not designed for all these applications. So for industrial application, normal sensors are not recommended because they may fail after some. Yes, 5G technology can definitely be used in IoT. As I said, the SIM card based technology, where we are putting a SIM card, it can connect to internet using GPRS, which was a 2G technology, using 3G or 4G or 5G. All these can be used SIM card in SIM card. Can we use hardware descriptive language? Like, see, as I already said, the language is dependent on the hardware used. Even we can use FPGA kits as a processing unit hardware. So if you are using an FPGA kit as a processing unit using hardware, VHDL Verilog can be used. So language is dependent on the kind of hardware that we are using. Okay, in drone, which microcontroller or microprocessor is being used to implement? Again, the drone application is not dependent on the type of microcontroller. There are so many microcontrollers available in the market, like Atmel is there, PIC is microchip, PIC is there, then Texas is there, STM is there. You can use any of these microcontrollers. You just have to understand the programming language of all of them, because all the platforms may have some minor differences in programming plan. You can use any kind of microcontroller for this drone application. Okay, so finally I have reached the last question. People are saying that real IoT is different from what we are discussing in India. It is only in the evolving stage. See, this statement by T. Ramarao Mohan is partly correct. See, as we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about IoT, so many things. So what is happening in the market is they are using a small part of, say, they install a Zigbee in their hardware and they say it's IoT. So IoT, as I said, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, all those layer app should be present, then only it can be called an IoT. Even in AI, AI also very misused term. If you go to a AI expert, if you simply add a simple program which can predict some 2-3 things, it cannot be called as AI. AI application. AI is a very advanced, it requires a lot of application. But it is also not true that in India, real IoT is not happening. There are a lot of applications happening. We are working on IoT at a lot of levels. There are many companies, even Smart City, in Smart City Bhopal, you have seen that the smart street lights, which are IoT controlled. How energy consumption can be calculated for IoT? Again, that depends on the kind of hardware you are using. We cannot directly predict what is the energy consumption. Which way is good to connect via either wired or wireless module when sensors are different places at home in project like home automation? As I already said in my presentation, wireless is always preferred because it is flexible, it's low cost, its low power consumption is there. So wireless is always preferred because in wired, once you wire the system, you cannot change the position. If it's wireless, you can switch hardware from one place to another. Okay. Next question is, sir, can we design an IoT without microcontroller? I will say, in principle, no. But there are some options like VHDL and all. So if you do not consider VHDL as a microcontroller, then FPGA as a microcontroller, then we can do without. So we need some intelligent processing unit. So microcontroller, microprocessor, computers. Computer can also be used as a IoT hardware processing unit, but it's very costly. FPGA kits, these all can be used as a processing unit. So yes and no both, that we can use IoT with and without microcontroller. Does any special platform required? No, there is no special platform requirement. You can use any platform that you want to use. Sir, can we use IoT for fault diagnosis of any real-time machines at training condition of machine? Yes, I have already covered an example of Industry 4.0 where we are installing sensors in a running machine. That data is sent to a very intelligent AI application, which is diagnosing that data and predicting in advance when that machine will fail. So yes, we can capture the real-time data of IoT. In fact, IoT is being designed for collecting real-time data. Can you suggest some best online and offline and online platform to buy components at fair price? There are many platforms, depend what kind of hardware you are using. If you talk about general hardware, Amazon is best. If you talk about specific IoT hardware, then RoboKits are there. I'll type in names here so that you can you can also search this. RoboKits is there. Then Extreme Electronics is there. So there are many such sites. It is taking some time because I have to answer a lot of questions. So RoboKits, Extreme Electronics, and I'm even forgetting some names. Even Gopal, there is TPS Online. So there are a lot of good websites where you can buy all. Security, this part, how security can be assured, this part was covered by one of the speakers. So security is actually a very serious concern in IoT because everything is wireless. In wireless, anybody can listen. So wireless communication is like somebody shouting loudly. So if somebody is shouting loudly, obviously everybody else can listen what we are talking about if it's in plain language. But see, if we are say talking in some other language, say for example, we are talking in Chinese language or we are talking in Tamil. If somebody is talking in Tamil, obviously the one who do not understand Tamil may not be able to identify it. So this is called encryption. So there are a lot of encryption techniques that we are working on to enhance the security. So as of now, the security is a concern, but there are many good solutions available for handling this security issue. As I already, so how many max devices to connect IoT? There is no limit to how many devices we can connect to IoT. It depends on the hardware that you are using. Yes, real-time analysis is possible through IoT because in IoT, we can send data as fast as 2 seconds. At first, 2 seconds. IoT device can send a data to a server every 2 seconds. So in every 2 seconds, you have a data. So every 1 minute, you can do analysis and things like that. So there were so many questions. Thank you for asking. I think it is very good because it gives me a feeling that at least you are listening to a lot of my presentation. So now I'll proceed. Next part will be less technical and more practical, and I hope you'll enjoy that. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so here, as this session is meant for a hands-on and online hands-on is pretty difficult, but I could thankfully find out that there are good platforms available where you can do hands-on simulations. One such platform is Tinkercad that we will be talking about in the third session. We have already reached 3:15. I hope we'll definitely reach to 4 p.m. and I hope you will not mind if we are extending the session that long because there are a lot of questions in there and I have to cover. So we'll see how to proceed. So now we'll talk about the implementation of layer 2. Now I'm starting with layer 2 is because sensors are pretty simple and I also wanted you to do some of the simulations yourself on the websites. And if I start with directly sensors, you will not be able to do simulations on the website. So I will start with layer 2 first. Okay, so if we have to implement layer 2, which is the processing hardware layer, which are popular platforms we have used. So good part of the question is I get to know what's going on in your mind so I can clear more doubts. So as there were many questions asked that which platform to be used, I cleared in the Q&A session, and I'm also again repeat that there is no standard platform that has to. So in our session, we'll be working on Arduino, but even in our industrial products, we never use Arduino because ready-made platforms are not good for industrial products because they are with a lot of bugs. But as a beginner, it is difficult for you to learn hardware from scratch. That's why we talk about Arduino, which is very easy. So what we are discussing is what are the popular hardwares we have available in the market. In the first session, Nilay also discussed many other hardware. That was a quite good list, exhaustive list that he provided. I'll briefly cover three hardwares and we'll start working on the first one. So the commonly used hardwares are like Arduino Uno, Raspberry Pi, and BeagleBoard. BeagleBoard is not so popular nowadays. So nowadays, Arduino and Raspberry Pi is very popular because these two hardware are popular because they are open source and lot of and the advantage with open source platform is many contributors across the world create libraries and things like that. So open source hardware has become very popular. Many of you may have doubt what is an open source hardware is. Open source hardware means the company provide all the details how to manufacture that hardware, all the circuit diagram, all the software and all, which is available on the internet, and you can manufacture your own hardware. However, this will not definitely be an easy language. So if you are a beginner and you have zero knowledge about IoT, you can never manufacture this product. But there are many experts across the world who are expert in their domain, say C language, Python language, or hardware designing, or micro. Again, I got a call, so I hope that I'm audible. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that because if I get a call, I'm connected with my mobile phone. If I get a call, that internet is disrupted. I disconnected that call. Okay, so Arduino and Raspberry Pi are popular hardwares. Arduino is a very basic and very low cost and very robust device. Raspberry is a very high end, complicated and power consuming device. So the properties of these devices maybe I'll cover in the next session. I'll just move on to this brief discussion about all these hardwares. So Arduino Uno, Uno is the one in Italian language. So Arduino was developed by Italian researchers and engineers. So they gave it name Arduino Uno. Uno stands for one. So this is the first board that they designed, and it's still very looks like something like this. You might have already worked on Arduino Uno. Some of you might be seeing it first time. So there are a lot of pins in this Arduino board that we'll be discussing in bit detail in after some time. So this Raspberry Pi board, you can see in Arduino Uno board, there are very few components. There is a USB port available, there is a power port available, there is a microcontroller, this is an IC, which is basically a microcontroller. Then we have these pins to connect to different hardware. pretty simple, but still it is very powerful. When we talk about Raspberry Pi, it's a very robust, very advanced hardware. It has a lot of components. It has up to 4 USB ports. Then we have Ethernet port. We have HDMI port. We have a special port, SD card reader. We have power port. So there are so many features available in this Raspberry Pi. I hope I'm clear now. So just type in chat box whether I'm clear or not, because I got a message that I'm not clear. So hope my voice is clear to everyone. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So BeagleBoard is there. I'll skip for this because it's a Texas Instrument device and it's not that popular because Raspberry Pi has overtaken this hardware. Okay, so just brief about what is Arduino. Arduino is a very popular, easy to use programmable board for creating your own projects. You can create your own projects using Arduino, and it consists of a simple hardware platform. It's a very simple hardware platform, a free source code editor with an easy one-click compile and upload option is there. It is designed to be really easy to use without being an expert programmer. The advantage of this board is you do not need to be a very expert programmer. Just having a basic knowledge of C with that you can program this hardware. There are a lot of shields. Using that shields, we can enhance the capability of Arduino boards. The most common version of Arduino is Arduino Uno. So Arduino is the common name given to a lot of the many boards of Arduino, like Arduino Nano, Arduino Mega, Arduino Butterfly, and there are so many such hardwares. And every day, new hardwares are coming up because it's open source. So many people around the world are developing their own custom hardware. So we'll be talking about Arduino Uno. So Arduino Uno looks something like this. It has an IC in between. It has a USB port. It has a power supply connector, and it has different pins. You can see that there are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pins which are visible, which should be visible in your screen. So these pins are basically called digital pins, which I'll be talking about in the next slide. And then we have analog pins, if you can see, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5, where we can take analog input. So what is a digital input? What is an analog input? That we'll be talking in the next session in the sensors networks. And then we have a power supply also. So, so this is a brief what I was talking about. So we have digital pins here, which is from 0 to 13. Then is a ground pin. If you want to reset this board, there is a reset pin available. Then we have a USB board and supply. Then we have analog pins here. Then we have a ground pin, and then there are a lot of other pins also. So what all features do we have in Arduino Uno? Priyanka ma'am, I'll make just one small request. Like many participants have typed their names and nicknames in the chat box. Please make a copy of that, because I'll be creating online classroom on Tinkercad. So I'll need those nicknames. So please confirm you're listening to me and you're copying all these names. Priyanka ma'am, are you there?
Yes, Sudesh. Yes, Sudesh. It breaks in between.
Okay. I'm really sorry because of the internet connectivity problem.
Yes.
So I requested Priyanka ma'am to copy the names and nicknames in the chat box.
She can only do this because she is the host. I'll request her right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I'll proceed with my presentation. So what are the features of Arduino Uno? Since my voice is little breaky, I'll try to repeat the statements again and again. So there are total 14 digital inputs and output pins in Arduino Uno. So what we call digital input and output pins. So it is simple that if there is 5 volt coming as an input and a 5 volt giving as an output, similarly if 0 is coming as input and 0 we are giving as output, this is called digital input outputs. There are 6 analog inputs in Arduino Uno. Analog means we are trying to measure 0 analog values like 0.3, 0.7, 0.8. So there are many sensors which are analog based. We'll talk about the analog sensors later. So there are 6 analog input pins. These 6 analog input pins can be converted to digital input and output.
वो तुम ही कर पाओगी शायद वो अभी सुदेश ने कहा कि प्रियंका मैडम से रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ कि सारे जो निकनेम है ना वो कॉपी करके चैट बॉक्स में दे दे, वो कुछ सिखाने के लिए कुछ ग्रुप बनाए.
Okay, so I'll proceed. It has 6 PWM output pins. These 6 analog pins can be converted to digital inputs and outputs also. 6 PWM outputs are there. And there is 1 UART that we'll be discussing in subsequent session. So when we open Arduino programming platform, we will see there are 2 functions in that platform. The first function is setup function and the second function is loop function. Let us try to understand what are these functions. So many of you might be from a little bit of programming background and many of might not be from programming background. However, to program a hardware, some knowledge of C is important. But in this application, I'll try to cover all the points which we'll be having in the slide. In C language, we have functions. What are functions? Functions are basically a part of code which do some task, which has an input and which has an output. So in this case, we see there are 2 functions: setup function and loop function. Let us try to understand how to do it. I have a question from Mr. Narayan Kumar. Simulation is possible or not? Yes, we can do simulations. I'll be talking about simulation in subsequent session part in this today only. Okay, so there are 2 type of functions: setup function and loop function. Setup function is used. So like as we saw in Arduino, there are so many features are available. We may have to use this feature, we may not have to use these features. If we want to use this feature, we do the settings and we do those settings in setup function. In setup function, we do all kind of settings. And after that, when we have to run a program again and again, we use a loop function. So in loop function, we type the program which has to be run again and again. I'm repeating once more. Any hardware, Arduino hardware needed a settings. Settings can be done in setup function block, where we can enable a lot of features already available in Arduino. These settings will happen only once. While the program like LED blinking, we want LED blinking all the time, on and off, on and off. So all the time we want LED blinking program. So we will write LED blinking program in loop function. So I have got one question in the chat box which says, can we make our own functions? Yes, we can make our own functions. We can make our own libraries. So libraries, if you don't know, then libraries basically set of functions which we can directly import and use. So what makes all the platform powerful is there are already ready-made libraries available on the net and also inbuilt in the Arduino, and you can directly use the functions of those libraries and you can run your hardware without coding those libraries yourself. But if you want to want to write your own functions, yes, in Arduino you can write your own functions. However, that part will not be covered in such short. Okay, so this is what I have already discussed. We have 2 sections in the programming: setup loop function and a loop function. The setup function followed by a small bracket, which means it has no input, it has no output. Whatever code we have to write in curly bracket, then void loop, then curly bracket. Loop is again a function, and whatever code we want to write in loop, we have to write within curly brackets. So setup functions runs once at the start of the program, and that can initialize settings. Loop function runs repeatedly until your board is powered. As long as your board is powered, your loop functions run repeatedly. So we'll talk about, since we are here for implementation session, so I'll talk about the functions also, and we'll implement a very simple example on a simulation platform. And I'll also spend some time on simulation platform, so you can also visit that simulation platform and do your simulations. I'll give more time in the next sessions tomorrow to do your work. We'll plan out how to do it. I'll discuss about how we can coordinate these simulations with me, how participants can send their simulation diagram with me. Okay. So first function here that we are seeing is pin mode function. So pin mode function is used to enable the feature of output present in Arduino Uno. Since we want to blink an LED, the first program, the simplest program you can find in any hardware. So we need to decide that pin as in output mode. So pin mode is a function which is used to decide that pin in output mode. So pin mode 0, input, like there are some examples. Well, this tells that pin 0. You might have noticed in Arduino board we discussed a lot of pins from 0 to 13. So what we are doing is writing this function pin mode 0, input. We are deciding that pin number 0 is in input mode. Writing pin mode 13 output, it is an output mode. So 0 and 13 are digital pins, and we are deciding 0 pin as input and 13 pin as output. So a participant has asked the question, is it case sensitive? Yes, it is case sensitive. So you should be careful to use cases. So here M is capital and P is small. So you should use exactly the same word, pin mode. You cannot use M in small. So this language used by Arduino Uno is case sensitive. So once you have configured a pin as digital pin output, you need to send an output by which you can give 0 and 1. So by writing high or low, we can give output as 0 and 1, and then LED can include. So digital write is the function. Again, it is important to note that W is in capital. So digital write function has two inputs. The first input is pin input, other input is value input. So you can write like digital write 13, 0. So 13, 0 here stands for the 13 pin should be given output 0. We can also write 13, low. So LOW low should be in capital. It's important. LOW is a capital if you're using this word. Similarly, if you want to switch that pin in high mode, you can type either high or 1. So there is one question from the participant: can we do simulation without Arduino board? Yes, that's what we are going to do in this session, because you don't have Arduino board at your home, and I cannot expect that all the participants can have Arduino board. We will do the simulation without any kind of hardware that is required for the implementation. So that is going to come in the next part of this session. Okay, so this is the first program that we are going to do, and anyone who is a very beginner in Arduino, they always do this program. I understand. I hope that many of you might have already worked on this. Since we are on we need to bring everybody on a common platform, common stage. That's why I'm discussing this first. So as you can see, there are two functions in the program: void setup and void loop. In the void setup, so in this program, what we want to do, we want to blink an LED on and off after every 1 second, which is connected to pin 13 of Arduino board. So what we need to do is we need to set that Arduino pin into output mode. So pin mode, so we are writing this function in setup pin mode small bracket 13 comma output. Output again should be in capital letters. It cannot be in small letters. And it must followed by a semicolon. Those who are very new to programming language, please make sure these details you type as is. You can also take the snapshot of all these things so that while doing experiment, you don't find any problem. So once that 13 pin is set into output, we will write the program to blink LED on and off. So so this pin mode, this setting has to be done only once. So this setting we will do in setup function. LED we want to blink all the time. We want to blink LED all the time. So we will write this function, this program, LED blinking in loop function. So digital write small bracket 13 comma high small bracket semicolon. So by writing this line, what we are doing is we are giving output high at 13 pin, then we are giving delay of 1 second. So delay is a function in Arduino which gives a delay. This function by default gives delay in microsecond. So for 1000 microsecond, it becomes a 1 second. So we are giving delay for 1000 microsecond or 1 second. Digital write 13 comma low. So while writing digital write 13 comma low, so by this we are giving 0 volt to the 13 pin, and by doing this LED should be off. And again we are giving delay of 1 second, and this process is repeated because loop program runs infinitely. It runs all the time. So this LED will be on and off all the time. So this is the most basic program when we have to work with the Arduino Uno. So next, I'll take the questions in the end because we have already overshoot our time. So now these slides are a little important. So there is a platform called Tinkercad. You can note down this word Tinkercad, and for you, so that you can do the experiment quickly. It obviously takes time to share the PPT, and there are 100 participants. Emailing the PPT and video to all of them is a little difficult. So I'll be slow now. I'll recommend all of you to take the screenshot of the screen, and you can store this in your say Word file and all, and then you can refer it later stage. So these are so what is being followed now is a screenshot of how to do your simulations on a website called tinkercad.com. You can see tinkercad.com. Slash dashboard is the link exact, but tinkercad.com is the website. So you will have to create your own profile. I have not included how to create your own profile. You can very easily create by providing your email ID and all. Once you have created your profile, this page will open. In this page, you can see on the right hand side there is 3D designs, circuit, etc. is provided. So there are a few questions also. Is there any link to download Arduino simulator? As far as I am aware, Arduino simulator is not there. Arduino software can be downloaded. For Arduino simulator, there are a high level of softwares which might be will not be easy for you to work with. Some of the softwares are like Proteus. I'll type the name in the chat box. But Proteus can be used only by expert circuit designer. It will be difficult for you to work on Proteus. It's better to use Tinkercad as a beginner. So next question was asked is, can we download this Tinkercad? Is this option open source? No, this Tinkercad is not open source. It is a simulation tool. You cannot download it. As far as my knowledge is concerned, you have to go to the website and do with your internet connection only. Okay, so let's come down to this screen. So in this screen, you can see there is a screen that will come, and then on the right side, there are 3D designs, circuits, code blocks, lessons, etc. provided. So you have to, so this software is not just for circuits. This can be provided for a lot of other simulations also. We can design our 3D designs through this software. So we will simply go to circuits. We will simply go to circuits and click circuits. So by clicking the circuits, this window will open, and there you'll find create new circuit symbol is available here. So when you click circuits, this window will open and you'll see that create new circuit tab is visible. I'll be a little slow so that you can take the snapshot of your screens. Okay. So once you click create new circuit, you will see this kind of window. So let's see this window one by one. Okay, now we have a question. Can we operate on high frequency at digital pins of Arduino greater than 10,000 kilohertz? So yes, we can operate at a very high frequency. Even we can go to megahertz frequency, because the highest frequency of Arduino is 16 megahertz. So in practice, we can go up to 1 megahertz of frequency. We can blink fast. However, you will not be able to see that frequency. What is the URL of the, again, another question is, what is the URL of the website for Tinkercad? I'll just simply type here in the chat box. You can visit that website. Even I'm quite slow. You can also go to Tinkercad quickly, make your profile, and can also quickly come down here. Okay, so let's move on to the presentation. Here we can see that this window is opening. There are a lot of options available. We will talk this about all these options in just a little brief. So here in the top, just below Tinkercad, you are seeing an arrow kind of symbol. I hope that mouse is visible to all of you. This is used to rotate your device. When you hover your mouse in the real website, this is a PowerPoint presentation screen. If you go to this real website, the option will pop up. So this is basically rotate option. Then there is a delete option. This is undo, redo option. And then there are these two options we will discuss later on. Then there is a code option, start simulation option, export, share. These again we will not cover in our session. Then there is a component option, and you can see a few components here. Okay. So once this part is covered, and you must have taken the screenshot, let's move forward. So to do this simple experiment of LED blinking, what you need to do is, from your right side of the screen, you have to click and drag three components. I'm repeating, from the right side of your screen, you have to click and drag three components. They are register, a register you can use, LED, and Arduino Uno board. These three components are sufficient for our first experiment. They are register, LED, Arduino Uno. Register, LED, and Arduino Uno. You simply have to click and drag this component on your work area. I'm moving forward. Okay, now you have to do a very simple connection. So this platform, using this platform, you can do two types of connection. You can directly connect your connection with your Arduino board directly, or you can use a breadboard. I will avoid using breadboard here because I'll have to explain a breadboard in a bit detail if many of you are not worked on it. So here you can see that pin number 13 is connected to the LED. Now LED has two pins. The two pins are anode and cathode pins. I repeat, LED has two pins, anode and cathode. So we have to connect anode of the LED, the positive of the LED, to the pin number 13. The cathode of the LED, the negative of the LED, has to be connected to the resistor, and the other end of the resistor has to be connected to the ground pin. So this kind of connections you have to do. So once again repeat, connect anode of LED with pin 13, cathode of LED with resistor, and another end of the resistor with ground pin. Now you have to click code tab. You have to click the code tab in the simulation window. Once you click the code tab, you will find such interface. So this code tab supports three types of coding: block coding, text coding, block plus text coding. In this session, we will be only covering the text part, which we'll see in the next slide. Once again, I repeat, you have to click the code tab. By clicking the code tab, this window will open, And by going to the code tab, we will be able to write the program in the simulation software so that that program can run. So once you go to the code tab, you are seeing the blocks. The blocks is visible here. You have to select the text option in the blocks. Okay, in the block section, you have to select the text option because the programming that we are going to do is in the text format. So just click the text option. After clicking the text option, this window will come. It will seek your permission whether you want to do text mode or not, because anything earlier you have done might not be saved. So just click the continue tab. Once you click the text option, this will come up and you just press the continue tab. Once you click to the continue tab, you will define this program by default. So the program that I've covered, you'll see in this simulation website by default. It will be there by default. You don't need to write for the first time. Okay. So for the first time, you'll get that directly program here. However, it's good that you once doing the simulation, you can remove this whole program and then can write once again. Okay. So I hope you have taken the screenshot of the screen. Okay. So, like you can see, when we write the code, our window is slightly obscured. So we will again click the code tab. By clicking the code tab, the program will disappear and we'll see the complete window. So by again clicking the code tab, the program window will disappear and we will see this our circuit that we have just implemented. To see how this code is working, we simply need to click the simulation tab beside code which says start simulation. Once you press that start simulation, this simulation will run, and in this screen you can see the LED is slightly bright. You can see that LED is slightly bright, which shows that that simulation is running. Although it's not a real website, because real website will take me to add to the screen and all. So once you run the simulation, the LED will continuously blink one after the other. So the controller, there is one question from a student, from participant, which controller is preferred? There is no preferred controller. We can use any type of controller that we use. Every controller has their own features and it totally depends on the kind of implementation you are doing. And discussing those things, which controller to be used or which not, is a little bit high level concept. Who are not from so I won't go over here. So for now, Arduino is sufficient. If you're a beginner, Arduino is sufficient for most of your applications. So in this way, we have implemented a simple simulation on Tinkercad, and we have implemented a LED blinking program here. Okay. So now next, what I wish all of you. Okay. So. Okay, there is a question, sir. Please again explain from where we can start the simulation. I'll go back to the slide. Here in this slide, you can see there is a start simulation option. There is a start simulation option. In the start simulation option, when you click this start simulation option, simulation will start. Okay, so when simulation starts, you will see that LED is blinking. I hope this solves your problem. Okay, so the next thing is definitely when you work with this Tinkercad platform, you may have doubts. So we have to figure out how we can communicate. So chat is one of the option, or WhatsApp may be another option. I won't mind, although 100% will be very overwhelming for me to cover. But I think for the sake of that, at least some practical work, I'll share my WhatsApp number. You can just ping me. Please be patient that I may not respond immediately. I'll take some time to respond. So what you have to do is basically join my class. How to join my class? I have asked you to write your names and nicknames. So I have created my own class by IoT Manit Workshop in the Tinkercad website. Here, the nicknames I'll add maybe by evening or night. I'll try to do as soon as possible. I'll add those nicknames in this in my classroom, and you can join my classroom by joining my classroom, I can see your projects, your whatever projects that you have implemented on this Tinkercad software. So today's assignment for you is that you have to implement this LED blinking program and one more program, that is LED pattern, that you have to figure out yourself how to do that. However, I will provide the program in the subsequent slides. So in LED pattern program, you have to glow 4 LEDs one by one. First LED should glow for 1 second. Second LED, then it should be off. Second LED for 1 second, then it should be off. Third LED for 1 second, then it should be off. Fourth LED for 1 second should be off. Okay, so you have to write this program. So by the nicknames, I will provide. I will add you in my class, and then you can join. I've got one question which I will answer after covering a few slides. Okay, so this is the classroom that I have created. Now, how you can join this classroom? To join your classroom, you have to provide. There are 2 ways to join the classroom. First, you can go to the link directly, which I will type in the chat box soon, or you can provide this access code. So to join the classroom, you just have to provide this access code. You'll be able to join my class. And to make sure that everybody, unwanted people do not join, I will have to add your nicknames. So if you have your nicknames, then only, so you'll have to provide 2 things. You have to click this link, then you will directly link a page or go to a page, or you have to provide a class code by join class that some participant has just typed in the chat box, that link. So going to that link and inputting this code, you can join my class, but you will also need to provide the nicknames which I have not created yet. So the nickname that you have already provided in the chat box, I will use those nicknames, and these nicknames will be created. After these nicknames are created, you can join my class by entering those nicknames. So am I audible to everyone?
Yes.
Chat box?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm repeating, to join this class, you just have to type this code and your nickname. I'll create that nickname maybe by the evening. So after you create this nickname, you can join my class and you can do the experiments. If you have any doubt, you can ping me on my WhatsApp number. Okay. So now I also cover the question. Programming will differ for various types of microcontrollers. Since we have talked a lot about microcontrollers in this session, so I just want to tell most of these microcontrollers are embedded, can be programmed using embedded C. So if you have an embedded C, I request that somebody voice is audible. Please, all the participants check your mic and mute your mic. All the participants, please check your mic and mute it. I am seeing that Ajay Kumar Yadav is there, whose voice probably is audible. Okay, thank you. So for different microcontrollers, the language will be embedded C only. However, it may not, language will be embedded C only, but it may not be portable. What I mean by portable is like, say, for Atmel AVR microcontroller, if you wrote a code, that code may not work for, say, STM microcontroller. You may have to do some changes, right? Learning microcontrollers is much difficult than learning Arduino Uno. I'll suggest you to learn Arduino Uno first. There are a lot of very good websites and links and platforms where you can learn Arduino Uno very easily. After you have developed a good understanding of Arduino Uno, then you can proceed to learning of microcontroller. So this is how you can join the class. Now I am just discussing LED pattern program, a brief code I am here, which you also have to do. So in LED pattern program, there are 4 LEDs. There are, it's already 357. I'll finish within 2-3 minutes. So LED pattern program, we are trying to blink 4 LEDs. So these 4 LEDs will connect with A0, A1, A2, A3, which are the analog pins. I have already said that analog pins can also be used as digital output pins. So we are using A0, A1, A2, A3 as output digital pins and setting them as output. When we set them output, we can write in setup, and then one by one we can blow the LED. Like in the first line, you are saying by using digital write function, A0 we are putting it at high, digital write A1 as low, digital write A2 as low, A3 as low. So in the first section, we can see that we are only blowing A0 LED and A1, A2, A3, A4 are low. In the second part, we are blowing A1. In third part, we are blowing A2, and the fourth part we are going A3. It is important to note that we also need to switch off the LEDs. If you are switching on an LED, it will be on all the time. It won't get switched off. It is very important to note. Okay, so if you write to switch on LED 1, 2, 3, 4 without switching off, you will see all LED will glow. Okay, so make sure that you also switch off the LEDs. So this is the program for LED pattern. You yourself have to figure out the circuit diagram, which is very simple and repeatable. As I said in the LED blink program, you can simply connect that LED blink program. You can extend that LED blink circuit to 4 LED blink. So I think this should be enough for this presentation. And I see that participants are very excited to ask the questions. So I'll just go back to the questions. If you have any question, please type in the chat box. I hope I'm not taking too much of time. If it's too much of time, participants can leave this meeting. Okay, so please ask your questions in the chat.
I think somebody has written, thank you, Sudesh.
Okay, so they are asking me to leave.
Yeah. No, it's not like that. It's a very, very interesting lecture and session, and lot of practical things you have given them. And I'm very excited that they will join your chat room. I have requested Priyanka. She has taken all the nickname